There are times when good people, sincere people, are at war with themselves. People having a multitude of strengths, but getting caught up in their weaknesses, trying their hardest to overcome them, and still failing. Somehow, their strengths and qualities often feel deeply genuine and believable, perhaps because they're balanced by how deeply lost these people are. It's this same sense of struggle that is reflected in Rean Schwarzer, the protagonist of Trails of Cold Steel. He's a first year student at Thos Military Academy, one of the most prestigious military academies in Arbonia. There's an air of cheerfulness and infectious optimism about Rean, and he's a selfless, perceptive, kind, witty, and empathizing, if somewhat secretive, and sometimes dishonest individual. A likable dude with some grounding human flaws for a kid his age. He has all the right ingredients and qualities for the hero of a story. But there is more to Rean than meets the eye. As we get to know more about him, we understand how his naturally heroic qualities, like his selflessness, have been warped and malformed by his poor self image, lack of self confidence and self worth, and a strong fear of self, which stems from a deeply traumatic event from his past involving the awakening of a violent ogre power sleeping inside him. And while the details are hazy, it seems like he violently killed someone or something in self defense. Since then, he's been afraid of himself and been suppressing the monster inside, even holding back during battles to prevent it from coming out. His sister, Elise, witnessed that incident, and he feels deep guilt and responsibility towards her, especially as she kept mum regarding the incident and continued to love him as before, as if nothing changed, despite possibly being terrified by what happened. Also, Rean is the adopted commoner son of the Schwarzers, a family of nobles, and adopting him made them lose face and dignity among the rest of nobility and high society, which is again something he blames himself for. This has soured his opinion of himself, and the lack of self-worth often subconsciously leaks out in his interactions with his classmates as well. It's almost heartbreaking how vulnerable he is in these moments. How sincerely he not only accepts the flaws that other people point out in him, but also how he doesn't hesitate to take all the blame on himself. He then tries to overcome these flaws, and he tries hard, but remains ever distant from that elusive self-acceptance. He's rarely ever content with who or what he is, and has the tendency to beat himself up ruthlessly whenever he feels his own weaknesses surfacing. It's all rooted in that incident, in his childhood, and how he thinks his family suffered because of him. He joined Thors to stop feeling like a burden to them, become strong enough to protect them instead of hurting them, and then slowly walk out of their lives. That's how he believes he can, quote, repay the debt that he owes them. The debt of raising someone like him. Is Rean really such a bad person? Of course he's not. He's sweet, caring, empathizing, and has an almost abnormal, warped level of selflessness, which is enhanced by his own lack of self-worth, but is still endearing because it's sincere. It's painful to listen to him berate himself. Even I, the player, know that he doesn't deserve it. But oddly, the fact that he doesn't give up on himself and continues to fight his quote demons, continues to try to overcome them, makes him all the more lovable in a twisted way. The only demon inside Rean, however, is his deep misfortune, his trauma that has stayed with him all these years and manifested as his self-hatred. And his family know it. They know who he is, how gentle he is. They never blamed him for anything. Elise loves him deeply and tries her best to share the burden of that incident with him. His parents love him deeply, and they never cared half as much for their status in nobility as they did for their children. They raised him with their own hands. How can he ever be a burden to them? And how can him walking out of their lives ever make them happy? Rean's only fault was that he is too sensitive, sincere and loving, because that gave the cruel circumstances he faced a chance to turn him against himself. That's why sometimes people need help. Sometimes people need to be told that it's okay, that it's not their fault. Sometimes people need to be assured that they are loved. Good people like Rean, who've been dealt a short hand but are trying their damnedest to overturn it, so that one day they can finally open their eyes and realize that they are loved because they deserve to be loved, and it's not a debt they have to repay, so that one day they can finally learn to accept themselves.